Okay, Political Prodder here. Stephen Prodder's views on politics. Hoping to cross the 10 subscriber line. This is September 10th, 2024. It was recorded on Sunday, the 8th of September. We can go in advance on this because it's actually based on a discussion. I've stopped talking politics with a particular one of my colleagues because, frankly, he just doesn't draw his opinions from fact. In his mind, there's some big conspiracy to put Harris in office. I think that the conspiracy is not a conspiracy, it's just the incompetence of Trump, or possibly the gaps in coherence and mental functioning that we're seeing. It's just kind of sad. But the last conversation we had, I asked, was J.D. Vance vetted? I just did a Vance vetting of my own, and I did a YouTube search, and I found a half dozen different controversial statements recorded between 2021 and 2024. It's obvious to me that nobody looked at J.D. Vance's YouTube and news clip database and vetted him, or the people who vetted him had the microscope and were looking for only good examples. Because, again, you can find 10 different examples of J.D. Vance talking out of turn. That's opposed to Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, his only basic problem is people just don't know him. He's in a good place. Walz's positives, including his 24 years in the National Guard and his political career and his down-home football coach kind of approach to government and speaking and politics, I've seen dozens of different polls on his favorability, but he's got a net positive favorability between 12 and 15%. When people think of Tim Walz, they think of a likable guy. They think of a guy they want to have a beer with. They think about J.D. Vance. They think about cat ladies. In the latest, some very poorly thought out commentary on a school shooting in Georgia, in which, after the police went to the father of the gunman weeks before this happened, or at least days before it happened, and the father's reaction was to qualify the kid another gun. You may be a Second Amendment kind of a guy, and that's doing politics I can't stand, but I can understand it. I can't stand it, I can't agree with it, but I can understand it. But right after a shooting, they have a playbook. You're not supposed to insult the victims. You're not supposed to say this is a fact of life. It's not a fact of life. It doesn't happen in Canada. It doesn't happen in Australia. It doesn't happen in England. It doesn't happen in France. It doesn't happen all across most of the world. We're the only country that has this level of gun violence, and we're the only country in the world that has more guns in it than people. I'm not in favor of taking away everybody's guns. What I am in favor of is taking guns out of the hands of people who are mentally ill. And we've seen a pattern that the Republicans don't have an answer to, whereby somebody commits a shooting, it turns out he's mentally ill. It turns out there was warnings, there was Facebook posts, but the only thing shooting I can remember that didn't have this pattern was the one against Trump in Pennsylvania. Thank God it failed. But it comes down to it. J.D. Vance, he seems to walk around with his foot in his mouth all the time. I hope that they don't smell too bad. J.D. Vance has gone from unknown to underwater. He's 10 to 15 points underwater on his favorables, and everybody knows him. And if you want to learn more about J.D. Vance, you want to see if he's got vetted, just do a search, J.D. Vance videos. Narrow it down a little bit, go for normal normal sources. Try and avoid the fake news stuff, and you will be fine. So we got a choice as backup commander-in-chief of J.D. Vance, who seems to be in favor of making women who are forced to have sex against their will, rape victims and incest victims, carry the babies to term, because they shouldn't be able to stop those pregnancies because it's inconvenient. I don't see any need to quote J.D. Vance. Everybody knows what he's saying. Every time he opens his mouth, new negatives come out. I mean, that's it. I mean, if he got vetted, his vetter should be fired. And it seems like Donald Trump's son actually vetted him, and that team should be fired. There's a lot of incompetent people in the Trump campaign, and if they lose, this is why. Please subscribe. Please press notify. Thanks for supporting this content.